Greetings, Doom fans, and welcome to another edition of the Frostbite Falls Daily Rant, here on the Doomstead Diner. I'm taking a break this week from my Weather Gone Wild series, which so far has covered floods, tornadoes, snowstorms, and earthquakes, but still has many episodes to go, including droughts, hurricanes, volcanism, and any other wacky weather you can think of, like haboobs, for instance, which actually have nothing to do with Raquel Welch, Selma Hayek, or Kim Kardashian. For this week, I'll return to my roots in economics, which has been my doom focus since I woke up to collapse in the aftermath of the collapse of the investment banks Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers back in 2007-2008. The topic for this week is the so-called war on cash, currently being promoted and undertaken by the powers that be as the final solution to our economic woes. This first started being bandied about when Cyprus and Greece went under the bus, and these countries put limits on the amount of cash anyone could pull out of an ATM on a given day, in order to stem the tide of a run on the banks as the folks in those countries desperately tried to get their savings out of the banks before they crashed, and they unfortunately got to bail in the bank with their money and make sure the banksters running the racket continue to receive their bonuses. Of course, it's not just the Greek and Cypriot banks that are insolvent. They all are, everywhere. Just banks in the weak and small countries don't have the ability to paper over their losses with the endless creation of new credit through methods like QE, or quantitative easing, which basically amounts to central banks buying up dogshit collateral in the form of bad loans and bonds issued out by various nation-states and corporations issuing out freshly printed toilet paper on the basis of that dogshit. Sadly for the banksters running the show here, gimmicks like QE are less successful all the time. There are losses everywhere that need to be recognized at some point, and they are increasingly unable to find ways to cook the books that actually work. So they dig still deeper into the twilight zone of ever more ludicrous monetary policy like a NIRP, or negative interest rate policy. Under a NIRP regime, all sorts of cockamamie effects start to occur. First off, if you drop your money into a bank for safekeeping, it costs you money to do that. Not only that, this is considered an unsecured loan to the bank, in which case, if the bank goes tits up in a bankruptcy, you are about the last one on the list of people who might get paid back something here. Pennies on the dollar at best, but probably a big fat zero. Pigmen holding derivative contracts with said bank are senior to you. And everybody knows in any prep school the juniors get butt-fucked by the seniors. On the other side of this insane equation, if you actually can somehow borrow money, you get paid to borrow it. If I could somehow walk into my credit union and borrow $1 million at negative 1% interest per year, not compounded, then each year this loan was outstanding, the bank would owe me $10,000. Obviously, my credit union will not loan me money under this regime. But for the pigmen at the top of the food chain here, running the too-big-to-fail banks, this is a real possibility. Endless free money just by borrowing at negative interest offered by the Fed. The more you borrow, the more you make. Think of the bonuses you could generate if you borrowed $1 trillion at minus 1% interest. It's so fucking stupid. You wonder how Nobel Prize-winning economistas can pitch this shit with a straight face. But they do, nevertheless. And in fact, the whole idea gets increasingly more play in the MSM as the banksters struggle to keep a totally insolvent banking system floating for another day. The problem with this idea, of course, is that about nobody in their right mind is going to drop their savings into a bank that is charging a negative interest rate. At this point, after cashing your weekly paycheck at the bank, you take the cash and stuff it in the Bank of Sealy, or into a waterproof container you bury in the backyard, or some undisclosed location in a national park which only you have the GPS coordinates to go recover, stored in a 256-bit encrypted file on your cell phone. This works, of course, only for so long as there actually is physical cash you can withdraw from the bank to bury, and also only as long as said physical cash maintains its value from year to year. However, Whoever printed the cash to begin with puts a serial number on it. So year-old cash, when you try to spend it, could easily be depreciated at the point-of-sale terminal by a full percent. Whether cash continues to exist or not, the powers that be can make any old rule they like to devalue it. Although this becomes much, much easier once you go all Digibit and get rid of the cash altogether. What are the benefits to the powers that be for getting rid of cash? There are many, but let me read from a recent op-ed featured on Bloomberg News, home base for the tentative third-party POTUS candidate, Michael Bloomberg. Much depends on the details, of course, but this is a welcome trend. In theory, digital legal tender could combine the inventiveness of private virtual currencies with the stability of a government mint. Most obviously, such a system would make moving money easier. Properly designed, a digital fiat currency could move seamlessly across otherwise incompatible payment networks, making transactions faster and cheaper. It would be of particular use to the poor, who could pay bills or accept payments online without need of a bank account, or make remittances without getting gouged. Right. For governments and their taxpayers, potential advantages abound. Issuing digital currency would be cheaper than printing bills and minting coins. It could improve statistical indicators, such as inflation and gross domestic product. Traceable transactions could help inhibit terrorist financing, money laundering, fraud, tax evasion, and corruption. Don't you just love how this is going to be of particular use to the poor? See, the guys pitching this bullshit are really concerned about the plight of poor people, and this will help them. It's also going to help inhibit terrorist financing and resolve all those nasty problems of money laundering and fraud. If you buy any of this complete bullshit, please buy from me the Brooklyn Bridge project to move it to Miami, so that when the streets are flooded, you can drive over the bridge and keep your Tesla batteries dry on your EV. This is all utter nonsense, of course, but that never stopped con men in any era, whether computers were available to scale up the con or not. The outcome of a purely digital currency is quite obvious, which is all your money belongs to us. That means them and not you. On any given day, whoever holds the key to the switch on the supercomputer holding all your perceived Digibit wealth can just flip it off. Have you ever tried to charge something and had your credit or debit card rejected for some reason? It's quite embarrassing when you take a potential mate out to dinner and your credit card gets rejected, of course. If there is no recourse to even cash, you can't get out of the restaurant without you and your girlfriend doing the dishes the rest of the night. Of course, none of the techno-digibit money freaks ever deal with the small problem of what you do in a blackout situation, and nobody can access their account from their cell phones or piece of shit terminal either. Soon as the power goes out, everybody's money disappears. Hopefully, of course, at some point the Digibits reappear when the lights go back on, but what if it takes a week, or 2 weeks, or it never comes back on? Everybody is instantly bankrupt in the current world. Although 90% or more of all transactions are done with credit or debit cards, you at least have the fallback position of going to cash in an emergency. And anyone who does not have at least enough cash to cover a month's worth of bills, if you actually make enough money to save some, is a complete nincompoop. Under an all-Digibit regime, there is no plan B. Even bartering your gold coins in this situation would be pretty tough, as it is unlikely that Walmart will sell you a bag of rice for your Eagle or Maple Leaf. Walmart itself obviously has a problem doing any transaction with their Chinese suppliers when the power goes out in Bentonville, Arkansas, or in Beijing. The whole meme is being couched in terms that this will help the common man and prevent nasty people from doing drug deals and laundering money and evading taxes. Fact is, none of that helps the common man at all. It only helps the too-big-to-fail banks and the government, which facilitates the racket. The push towards an all-digital currency appears to be in full force now, and the main question is whether there is a way to defend against this push. There is, at least on a relatively small scale, for the typical Joe Sixpack with not too much in the way of savings, which is the case for at least 50% of the population, but probably a lot more. In the next edition of the Frostbite Falls Daily Rant, I will detail how you secure meager savings against the currency manipulations and capital controls and removal of cash from the commerce system. Coming soon to a laptop near you. And that's all the Doom. This time until next time, here on the Doomstead Diner. Later, Doomers.